And you always need to remember something, that the word itself comes from a very dystopic novel from the 90s. And a lot of people talk about that, but very few people actually did read the book. And I've always been into science fiction, so I read Snow Crash when it came out in the 90s. And if you read the book, it's all about economic collapse and very oppressive government. You got mafia, you got drug dealers, and so forth. So to me, it's like, this is possibly the worst possible branding we could get for this new technology. But then I think I look back, and again, I'm getting old now, so I'm 43, and I do remember that 20 years ago, something very similar happened with the branding of a very famous TV franchise that you probably know, and that's the Big Brother, right?
Welcome, Simone. I'm really happy to have you today, and also that you're taking the time. So, for our audience, may I ask you to introduce yourself, Simone? So, so who are you? Where are you from? And also describing a bit your path.
Sure. First of all, thank you for having me. My name is Simone. I'm working in the hospitality space for the last around 25 years now. I started as a hotelier. I was at some point I was a general manager for a small chain of boutique properties in Italy. But I always had this passion for technology, and it was interesting to me that there was this connection between the hospitality industry and tech. Right, we're very late adopters when it comes to tech. And so at some point I got a little bored by the operational part of the job, and I wanted to focus more on consulting and marketing and tech. So I moved to Paris for a few years, worked for a few web agencies and a few consulting companies, up until I created my own consulting firm that is called Travel Singularity, and it's basically all about connecting the dots between new technology and existing tech stack in the hospitality industry. And I've been talking about things such as crypto and blockchain and the metaverse, whatever you mean with that, for quite a while now. But of course, and I think this is the situation a lot of us found ourselves into after the Facebook rebranding. There was this huge interest around the metaverse concept. So I started consulting even in that area. And last year, I created with Hospitality Net, that is the biggest blog about travel and hospitality, the community of experts in the metaverse industry. And I got people from I got academics, book authors, I got devs, I got NFT artists, to try to evangelize people about what the metaverse is, and especially what the metaverse is not. That I think it's a big problem today. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
Cool, thank you for that. For those who are hearing the term metaverse for the first time, so how will you introduce this kind of term to them?
Okay, so let's start by saying that I hate the term metaverse. Okay, and I think that it's doing more harm than good. And you always need to remember something, that the word itself comes from a very dystopic novel from the 90s. And a lot of people talk about that, but very few people actually did read the book. And I've always been into science fiction, so I read Snow Crash when it came out in the 90s. And if you read the book, it's all about economic collapse and very oppressive government. You got mafia, you got drug dealers, and so forth. So to me, it's like, this is possibly the worst possible branding we could get for this new technology. But then I think I look back, and again, I'm getting old now, so I'm 43. And I do remember that 20 years ago, something very similar happened with the branding of a very famous TV franchise that you probably know, and that's the Big Brother, right? And before 2000, for us, Big Brother was just something out of George Orwell, 1984. And I had exactly the same feeling. I said, why are you picking this name from this horrible dystopian book to come up with a very light TV show? But I was wrong then because the franchise was very successful, and maybe I'm wrong again. So maybe the metaverse is the best way to call it. That being said, if you want to be a little more academic, when we talk about the metaverse, we're talking about an umbrella team, and that is basically a convergence of several different technologies that have been around for quite a while now, and anything from extended reality, so of course virtual reality, AR, mixed reality, but also a lot of technologies that are more connected to the idea of Web3, so decentralization, blockchain, and so forth. So to me, really, when we talk about the metaverse, we're simply talking about the natural evolution of the internet. The term is more something that has to do with marketing than the tech itself.
Okay, all right. So you are helping today your customers in regards of Web3 and metaverse. So, and the term metaverse is really trendy, and I have the feeling that they are using it almost for everything. But what is today already possible?
Well, there are a lot of things that are already possible. Again, we just don't call it the metaverse. But think about look, for example, the first academic paper that I was able to find about the use of the, let's call it metaverse in psychotherapy, for example, was published in 2001. So this is 22 years ago. Okay, and this was about you can still find it on academia, and this is about treating patients with phobias, especially like fear of flying, for example. And what therapists used to do was to put these patients into a flight simulator, that's VR, and treat them in a safe environment. And the results were amazing. You know, the paper says that there is a 40% increase in success rate when treating patients with that approach. So that is called VRET, you know, virtual reality exposure therapy. So it's been something that's been around for like more than 20 years. Or think about the medical field. You know, if you want to become a surgeon, it's quite likely that part of your training will be done in a metaverse. This could be anything from AR to mixed reality to VR, and at some point you can even probably work and operate on a digital twin of an organ, of an actual organ, or a biological digital twin, right? So not to talk about the manufacturing industry, for example, and so this is pretty standard again, and that is to me is the main problem when we talk about the metaverse. You know, it's an issue with the current narrative that it says that it's something that is so, like, it's all about innovation, it's so new. But when you look back, again, as I told you, when we talk about the metaverse, we're just talking about a bunch of technologies that have been around for a while now. To me, the best analogy is probably, and you probably remember that, the launch of the first iPhone, so 2007. And when you look back, the first iPhone was not that innovative to me. And I know this can sound like blasphemy, but to me, the genius idea was to take a lot of existing technology and to put them into a one single device. You know, like before '07, basically, if you were going to holiday, you had to pack your digital camera or your MP3 player. If you're a music freak like me, probably even two MP3 players. But after '07, everything was into one single device. That is exactly what is happening with Metaverse. You know, all this technology has been around for years. Like, you know, the first VR experiments are you can find them back in the 50s of last century. So again, it's nothing new. I think we just are rebranding all these technologies and coming up with a new name, more for, I don't even know if it's marketing reason or it's just because it's easier to discuss all these technologies with one single term. But yeah, that's the reality of things.
Okay, all right. So today we have really some use cases which seems already working on the healthcare space, but also in the manufacturing space, like big automobile companies are using augmented reality or virtual reality already. But how is the should let's say today we have the is situation, right? So we have some stuff which is really working, but how is the should situation looking like? So how can it be in your point of view?
You mean in the future?
Yes.
Look, there are a few industries that are already exploring the different approaches. And again, you need to, I think that the best way to understand the metaverse is to think about the metaverse just as the internet, okay? Just as a new phase of the internet. And again, I started playing with computers, playing around with computers in the 80s. So I do remember like web 1.0, you know, and this was way different from what we have now. So at the end of the day, it's like if when we started moving from desktop to mobile, we decided to rebrand the internet. Okay, that is not exactly the case, and I think again that is the big problem with the metaverse. So smart companies and in retail, for example, or fashion that are a little more advanced in the adoption of the metaverse, they understood that, and they are simply using the metaverse as a tool and not as the ultimate goal. And again, this is a big misunderstanding when it comes to the metaverse, because a lot of people think of the metaverse as something that is completely disconnected from reality. And so you just, you put a set of VR goggles, and you just in a different world, and the experience starts and ends in that virtual world. But that's video gaming, you know. Still can be metaverse, but that's video gaming. For us, especially when we talk about the metaverse in the business space, it's more about using the metaverse to solve problems that we have in real life, right? And so think about, to me, one company that is doing this like in a great way is Forever 21. I don't know if you're familiar with that. And what they do basically is they pre-test clothes in the metaverse. So checking out what avatars are wearing. And so they have this free, huge focus group. And if they see that something is very requested by avatars, they take that and they put it into in real life production, right? This is what we call it the infinite marketing loop. You know, it's there's always this connection between the virtual world and the physical world, and to an extent that this is David Chalmers. It's a philosopher that talks a lot about the concept of reality, and he says that in a few decades, the difference between the different layers of reality, the physical, augmented, mixed, or virtual, will be so, the lines will be so blurred that it will not even make any sense to actually try to find differences between these different layers of reality. And fashion, of course, is a great example, because first of all, what you can do with fashion in the metaverse is test things before you put it out in the market, and that is something that is impossible in a 2D environment, right? On top of that, there's been a lot of talking recently about biometric avatars, for example, right? So basically, take a look, like personal example. I hate going shopping, and I never have the time. And my problem is that I need to go shopping for clothes because I need to make sure that they fit, right? Now with biometric avatars is way easier, because I got my own biometric avatar, and I can go to a metaverse store, and I can try out the clothes on my avatar, and I'm sure they will fit, because that's basically a digital copy of myself. Or look at what Nike is doing with augmented reality. Like if you want to know if a pair of sneakers is good for you, you just check it out with your phone, and you look at your foot, and you can try different sneakers in augmented reality. And if you like one, you can just buy directly from the metaverse. Or another perfect example to me is like the food industry. Deliveroo is doing something super interesting. What they used to do, and they do it from time to time, is they put an avatar dressed as a Deliveroo driver into gaming metaverses. Like Animal Crossing, for example. But that's great, because you're playing Animal Crossing, or you're playing Roblox, you're playing whatever, and you see these avatars dressed up as a driver, and you can simply click on him and order food that will be delivered to your door. So you see, there are a lot of real application that we're already using today. But to me, it's more a philosophical problem. If we think about the metaverse as something that is completely disconnected from reality, and it has no impact on what we do in real life, we will not be able to get the essence of the metaverse. But again, this narrative was exactly the same in the mid-90s with the internet. And I'm currently writing an article about that, and so I did some reverse engineering work, and I was able to get some articles from like the Guardian or New York Times or Time of around mid-90s or early 2000, and you see that if you just change the word internet with metaverse, that is exactly the same narrative we do have today. It's scary, and but you need to remember that even though they were so pessimistic about the internet back in the 90s, this created the e-commerce market that today is worth some $5 trillion. Okay, so yeah, it's a problem of perception.
Agree. So metaverse will be that the physical world is colliding with the digital world. So it's not gonna be only the virtual world. So it will be a mix between the the physical world which we are living in with the virtual world.
Well, you've been to Naples. We were talking about it before. You've been to Naples, right? And I've been to Naples a few days ago. And every time I go to Naples, I try to go and eat a pizza, always to the same place that I like, right? And to me, thinking about the metaverse as just VR It's just like eating a pizza and thinking that you're eating a raw tomato, right? It's just a part of the narrative. And it's, to me, it's not even the most interesting part. On top of that, if you look at different companies, and that's another problem, I think, and again, it's a perspective problem. A lot of companies will come up with different definitions of the metaverse. And that makes sense because it's usually it's about what they're trying to sell you. Like take Zuckerberg, for example, right? So for a lot of people, that's the metaverse. When they think about the metaverse, they think about Horizon. Now, when you hear Zuckerberg talk, it's all about VR, 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 right? And so you got this idea, okay, so the metaverse is VR. But when you dig a little deeper, you understand that this guy has 90% of market share of VR headsets, with Quest. So it makes total sense that he's trying to push this narrative of metaverse equals VR. But then you look at Apple, and Tim Cook talking about the metaverse, and he said, you know what, this is not going to be VR. This is going to be more AR. And again, you dig a little deeper and you see that they are working on AR glasses. And a lot of analysts, they think that within the next 10 years, Apple glasses could actually replace iPhones, So you need to be very careful because very often, even the definitions of the metaverse do not come from an understanding of the technology, but they come from a commercial marketing strategy, right? And that is another problem when it comes to the large adoption, I think.
I completely agree with that, Simone. Simone, we are coming to the end. I have a last question for you, which I'm asking to all my guests. And I'm really amazed about your path, the career you made. And my question goes a little bit in that direction. So what kind of advices would you give to your 18-year-old Simone?
Okay, that's a good one. Look, when I was 18, I wanted to be a philosophy professor, believe it or not. And so the story goes like that. I was studying philosophy, and I had to pay my university. And so I said, let me think about the dumbest job I can get. And so I got time to study, and I started working in hospitality because I thought it was dumb. And boy, I was wrong. Okay, so and my career went, in a complete different way after that. But I'm pretty happy with what I ended up doing. So I would say that, look, I'm pretty happy with my life. I probably would say to the 18-year-old myself, just keep doing what you're doing. And, maybe just enjoy life a little more and don't over obsess about small things. Everything will be all right. But look, honestly, there's not much I would change.
But would you give an advice like to be open and curious about things which are going on and pay attention on the industries, what they are doing, and so?
Yeah, totally. But I've always been very curious about that. So look, if I want to be like super selfish, the only thing I would say to the 18-year-old version of myself is to buy some stock in Amazon and Google, probably. But other than that, I think that will be just it.
Great, Simone. I'm really happy that you were my guest. Thank you a lot. I wish you all the best and a lot of success.
Thank you so much.
Grazie.